And now, the Lowe Post.
Welcome to the Lowe Post podcast on a Thursday morning on the East Coast, where we're going to talk about a couple of Western Conference teams today that don't get the limelight of the Los Angeles teams. And we're going to start with the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are no longer a cute, feel-good, feisty story. It's time to talk about the Phoenix Suns in the light of, wait a second, there's something big going on here. They are 23-11, 8th in offense, 5th in defense, 3rd in net rating, 2nd in the Western Conference in terms of good old team record, ahead of both LA teams. They are 15-3 in their last 18 games. It's time to start asking the question, is something serious going on here? And there is nobody better to ask this question of than one of the greatest pure scorers in the history of the league, 19,000 plus career points, current color commentator for the Suns, the one and only Eddie Johnson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Zach. Thanks for having me, man. And I'm like, it's surreal for me this year so far. It's been a great year. As you see, I got my Fight in the Line I had on. You know, we're probably going to move up to number 2 in the country after we put our foot on the necks of the Michigan Wolverines. All due respect to my boy, Juwan Howard. I love what he's doing. And then my Suns, you know, finally, after 10 years of oblivion, I can actually wear this shirt and be proud. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Oblivion is really... I did a whole podcast during the bubble with my colleague Michael Schwartz in our research department, who's like the biggest diehard Suns fan at ESPN, and we went through all of it. Dragan Bender, Marquise Chris, Earl Watson getting fired 3 games into the season, the GOATs in the office,
Lindsey Hunt. Yeah,
the Lindsey Hunter era. I forgot about that. He had a very particular kind of tie that he prefers, and all of it. And boy, oh boy, you were there the whole time. I think you've seen a lot of weird and bad basketball.
I've been there for 20 years. This is my 20th year, and so I can't be a hypocrite because obviously my first 10 years were tremendous. The Steve Nash era was as popular as this organization has been. In all due respect to, the Kevin Johnson, Tom Chambers, yours truly era, leading to the Charles Barkley era. The Steve Nash era of Mari Stoudemire and Shawn Marion was unbelievable. And so I was spoiled the first 10 years. I walked into arenas on the road with my chest out. All the other analysts were a little bit envious and jealous. And in the last 10 years, man, they've been handing it to me. So it's good to be back on the map, man. And it's not going anywhere. I think this team is here to stay for a while.
Well, first of all, if people, sometimes when you watch the League Pass broadcast, now you get your choice online of which broadcast you want. Give the Suns a listen. Kevin Ray has done a really nice job stepping in on play-by-play, and Eddie pulls 0 punches, including with the Suns' own players. You're not a homer. You'll call them out if need be, and you have some old school tendencies, but you're not one of these guys who hates the new school, hates the threes, hates the way the game is played. Back in my day, this and that. You have a nice mix of. Now, wait a second. There is still value in that mid-range shot, that long two, which, by the way, the Suns are cashing in on all that value. But embracing the way the game is played now, you're funny, and I highly recommend the broadcast. I think it should get a lot of love.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate that. And you're right. It is like a tedious, situation when you try to, stay in between the new school and the old school aspect of playing. And I know analytic people sometimes get on me because they think I go overboard sometimes, but I just like the balance of the game. I think the purity of basketball, to me, in its most beautiful form, was when players just pretty much stayed within the realms of what they do well on the basketball court. And that's just always been something that I grew up with that, and I felt my success was there with it. And when I watched the Suns team, I think they epitomize what I'm talking about. They have 2 of the best mid-range game players in the league in Devin Booker and Chris Paul. They have tremendous three-point shooting. They have a big man in DeAndre Ayton. They got an old school low post guy in Dario Saric. I mean, they have a Michael Cooper type defender in Mikal Bridges. I mean, so they have a little bit of everything, and that to me makes the game of basketball beautiful.
So let's start. Let's just start with this question. I just went over all the credentials that the Suns have. Okay, I think in most of the media discourse, they are still perceived as like, oh, this is kind of a cute team, CP, wherever CP, every broadcast now, wherever CP goes, wins follow. No one is asking the question yet of, wait a second, should we be taking this team seriously as a threat to do real damage in the West? All of their statistical credentials suggest, yes, we should. The eye test is, I mean, they are just rock solid team. They have an identity. They play to it. So I'll ask you this. Why do you think, other than they've just been bad for so long, why do you think we're stuck so far in the, are they just a cute team? Is there something they're missing that makes it harder to take them seriously as like a team that can go toe to toe with the Lakers and Clippers? What do you think about that?
Well, I think, and you know this, I mean, you don't win consistently in basketball without great guard play. But in saying that, the big man, the forward, the athletic guy, they always get the attention. And so if you look at this Phoenix Suns team, they don't wow you with athleticism. They don't wow you with that name that can just jump off of the pages. Devin Booker's getting there. We know Chris Paul is a tremendous game manager. But in a sense, they're like kind of boring. They don't wow you with excitement per se. And I think that's why it's hard for people to kind of buy into what's happening here. They have a lot of guys that are not household names. I mean, Jay Crowder went to the finals last year with Miami. Mikal Bridges, is a kid out of Villanova that has success.
Was he good, Johnson, by the way? Yes, was Mikal Bridges good?
Yes, he is. Cameron Johnson. So I think, Zach, that's the key, is that they just don't wow you with their personalities. And I think that's happened to a number of teams in the history of this game. And I guess I'm reminded back to the Detroit Pistons when they won the title with Chauncey Billups. I mean, they didn't wow you with personalities. They were just a team that put their shorts on and went out there and fought you every night. And you look up at the end, they won a championship. And I think the Suns are that kind of team.
So I think there are three, and you're hitting at two of them. I think there are three sort of overarching issues that even I sort of struggle with when I watch the Suns of like, is this team a good team or potentially something more? Let's start with two that I think are interconnected. They're the second slowest paced team in the league, right? And that's a Chris Paul thing. When Chris Paul comes, you're going to play slow, you're going to play methodical. But beneath that are two interconnected issues. They're last in free throws, and they're 28th in shots at the rim. So they're just not getting some of the easier buckets and free throws that you typically are going to need to scrounge against the best teams. And I think there's also a general, I don't know what the right word is, maybe curiosity of like, what exactly is DeAndre Ayton? Like, what is he doing on this team? What is he doing for this team? And those two are very interconnected, right? DeAndre Ayton averages 2.5 free throws a game. For a guy with his size and his skill set, that's always been a bugaboo for him. So take the rim stuff and the Ayton stuff, take it either direction you want. What of that is concerning to you?
Probably more so Ayton continue to develop, because I think the way the Suns play is not exciting for regular season, but you and I know come playoff time, that's the way the game's going to be played. It's not going to be as fast-paced. Every possession is going to be extremely important. So I think the Suns are more so built for the playoffs in that regard. The shot clock's going to be exhausted. Teams are going to throw different defenses at you. And the Suns are a very good half-court team. And so that's what it pretty much bogs down to come playoff time. So I'm not worried about that, but more so, Ayton, because I think Ayton is the key. If he continues to develop, he gives the Suns something that teams can't combat. A 7-2 guy, 7-1 guy in there, we can throw him the ball, and if he can finish and keep that defense honest and keep them off of Devin Booker and Chris Paul on the perimeter, I think that helps the Suns. Dario Saric showed us something the other night against the Lakers where he went old school low post, and he's capable of doing that. And I think to me, that's how you win. That's how you win deep and go into the playoffs. So I would be more really worried about the development of Ayton. Catches in the paint, off the two-man game, making sure he's continually concentrating on hand-eye coordination, getting the ball, and then going up strong. Because you're right, 2 free throws a game is not good for a guy that size, especially in an era where a guy can breathe on you and you can get to the foul line.
Well,
So, yeah.
They're also 26th in offensive rebounding. So like all the just sort of like interior toughness. And part of that is they play 4 out. They've clearly committed to this. Like, we're going to play 4 out. We're going to have one big guy and a bunch of wings and guards. And that generally has worked for them. Dario, by the way, what an interesting career for Dario Saric. This is the NBA now. He came in as a 3, and in like the blink of an eye, he's a backup 5. It's just crazy how he's just slid all the way down.
Food's been good. Food's been good.
Yep.
He put us away. Come on, Zach. Hey, look, these dudes start eating that good food. That weight start piling on. He's living the life, But he's taking care of it. He's had his issues in growing into that body that he's changed. And so that's part of his problem right now. That it's not always a definite he can get on the court. And he's gone through it obviously over the last 2 years, but. Yeah, he is an old school, low post dude. He can't jump over a nickel. He's learned how to get separation from the defender and the ball, which a lot of these young guys don't understand. They just need to look at some film of Charles Barkley, Adrian Dantley, Mark Aguirre, and they'll figure it out. But they don't do that. But yeah, Saric is a guy that understands how to get his shot off now over bigger guys. And yeah, he's going to be huge. He was huge in the bubble last year, and he's going to be huge again because he can step it out to the 3-point line when, if you're trying to defend him tough down in the paint.
He's reminding me, I wrote about this his rookie year. We always make these player comps, and some of them are nonsense, but he has reminded me, since he came into the league, of Boris Diaw. For exactly all the reasons, you just like outside in. He just kind of spins and hits you with his butt and hits you with his back, and then he's at the rim for some flip shot. He's a good passer. So let's talk about Ayton, because I've said several times on my podcast, I think he's one of the most important players in the NBA over the next 5 years. His scoring is down by 3.5 points this year. His defense, I'd be interested to hear your opinion of his defense, but just what are you looking second half of the season like? What do you want to see from him? And look, when you get 2 ball dominant guards, it's I think tougher for him to find his spots and how he wants to contribute to the offense. But he can screen and roll, he can pick and pop, he can post. Like, what do you want to see him lean into? What kind of player should he be for this team?
If I had to take a choice for him right now, and that means this year and this team being able to get very far in the playoffs, it's his defense. I just think the gentle giant character. We've heard that throughout basketball, right? I remember reading something about Wilt Chamberlain, and Wilt said he was always afraid that he would hurt somebody, literally maybe kill somebody on the basketball court, so he held back. And we've seen that with a lot of big guys because they've been told when they were young that. Some parents didn't even want them playing against their kid, right? Because they knew that they would hurt their kid. And so you develop this sense that, of passivity. And I think that's what Ayton is dealing with. And he's still a young player, and he's got to understand that intimidation can become a major part of his game. And he has to continue to grow to that. And don't worry about it. What goes on between the lines, it just happens. You got to be ferocious. Like when I played and I was getting ready to drive the ball, the few times I did, if I saw Kevin Willis in there waiting on me, if I saw Bill Laimbeer in there waiting on me, I thought 2 times about it. If I saw Buck Williams in there waiting on me, I thought about it because they would hurt you. And literally not try to hurt you on purpose, but they gave you the sense that if you come in here, you're going to hit some combustion, man. And you kind of hesitate. And Ayton has to develop that. I think Embiid has that. That's why he's in the running for MVP, that he will attack you. He will be very aggressive with you. and you tend to back off of it, knowing that he might. Ayton is intimidating. He's one of the largest players in the league, one of the largest we have seen. He has a tremendous body, and that attitude that he's going to try to break the rim down every time he dunks instead of laying it up. His fouls mean something. Like, you get 6. You should never end the game and have less than 3 fouls. Never. It is no value in saving fouls. Fouls are there for you to be able to hit somebody. And get to that point where if you playing the Phoenix Suns and you drive that ball, he's in there waiting on you, and he might block it or he might hurt you. And that tends to hesitate in the mind of a lot of players, and it helps your defense even more. That's what I want from him now more than anything. I think his offense will come. They don't need a lot of his offense. The Suns have plenty of scores. They just need him to finish at the rim. But his defense, I think, is imperative this year.
Yeah, I thought defensively, he's had such a fascinating career. I thought as a rookie, defensively, he was about as bad as a big man can be in the NBA. It was very clear that the NBA game was unfamiliar for him. Guarding in space was too fast for him. Right. Last year, I thought he improved as much as anybody can improve from point A to point B. This year, I wonder if you think this is fair. This year, I feel like he's gotten a little bit worse. Like I don't think he's been as good this year as he was in the bubble. Is that fair? Or do you think he's about the same? Where do you think he's been?
No, you're not off center with that. And I think Zach is protecting him with that one is more so that he's got a ton of people in his ear right now. And Chris Paul's in there ad nauseum, right? In a great way. I mean, and Chris Paul is really going to help develop him. I think that now he's opened his ears to actually listen, finally, right? And because most young players think they know everything when they get in the league, and now with the year of losing and now the winning, he understands I think the excitement of having success, and he's receiving teaching from Monty, from Devin, from Chris, from Mikal. I mean, they're all on him. They do not allow him to rest during the game. And to his defense, he has received it. I have not seen during the course of a game where he's gone at them guys, because they all know that if he wanted to pick them up and break them in half, he could. So, right? So
he's huge. He doesn't play like it because all he wants to do to me is like post up and take these turnaround jumpers and blah, blah, which are never going to be high efficiency shots for him. But he is gigantic. I mean, he is not just like you see these guys, like I was watching Memphis last night, Xavier Tillman Sr., great rookie, doing great. He's 6'8", playing center. Like DeAndre Ayton is a legit 7, whatever he is, he's gigantic.
Right, and if he had Tillman's toughness right now, right, and then credit Tom Izzo for being a tremendous coach, not knocking the coaches at Arizona, even though I like ASU better, but I think Tillman, and that's a great example, Zach. I mean, he's a man. I mean, this guy he's a great defensive player at Michigan State anyway, and he's brought that to the league. And again, he has that toughness about him, and sometimes it's just hard to teach it. Rashawn Holmes for Sacramento. I mean, I love watching him play because he will hurt you. And again, I think Ayton will get to that point once he continues to get a taste of winning. If he doesn't, it's going to be a disappointment for him in his career, because I think right now he and Joel Embiid and should be the most intimidating big man in the league. Now, Rudy Gobert is intimidating, but not from a physical standpoint. It's from a finesse standpoint. But he is so good defensively, he probably doesn't have to scare you like that. But with Ayton and Embiid, I think that intimidation to come in the paint is parallel when I try to look at Ayton and expect him to get to a certain level. And so, as I said to you earlier, he's the key to this team. I don't care what all these other guys do. We know we're going to get the great play from Devin, from Chris Paul. You can probably throw Mikal Bridges in there now. And if they can get that from Ayton, they're going to be very difficult to beat come playoff time.
Is Embiid your MVP, by the way, if you had to vote right now?
Right now, I think he's by a sliver over LeBron, just based on what's happened, over the last, few weeks or whatever. But we've seen this with LeBron in the past. As people know his career. I mean, he reaches a stretch where his teams kind of struggle. He look fatigued, But Embiid, if he wants this award, he has to understand
He wants
that
it.
in the second half of the season, he's going to have to ramp it up even more because that dude's going for it. He hasn't been this close to getting it. LeBron has because, obviously Giannis over the last 2 years. But now I think he senses that, people are in his corner to give it to him. And so Embiid's really going to have a great second half of the season, I think, to hold on to it.
One of the interesting things about the Suns this year is how they've tried 3 different starting lineups. And the first one with Jay Crowder at the 4 has a -6 point differential. Now, we can talk about whether that's real or not. Then they tried Cam Johnson at the 4. They ditched that one pretty fast. That one actually worked all right. Then they've tried Kaminsky at the 4.
Yeah.
And Kaminsky's shooting 42% from 3. That lineup is plus 13 per 100 possessions. It's the best of them. But if you dig a little deeper, opponents have only shot 22% on threes against that lineup. So there's some luck in that figure. They've shot 42% on threes against the Crowder lineup. So I have my answer to this question. Maybe you don't care. Maybe you're one of these people who says starting lineup, we overblow it. It matters who finishes games, not who starts. But I do think this is an interesting window into how Monty envisions this team. And lately, I'm almost wondering, is he switching it based on matchup? Like, I don't remember who they played. Recently, they played a really big team, and he started Kaminsky, and then he downsized to Crowder the next game. But what do you think they should do? What's the right vision for this team?
Well, I think what Monty's doing is like, I think what it does, it creates, Zach, great harmony within your team to know that against specific teams or specific players, it's going to be your night. It's that, like, baseball mentality, where – you're going to come in and pitch against a right-hander or, he's going to play the odds, okay? And I think that's what Monty is doing. I think he's saying, hey, Frank, you're probably a little too slow to guard that guy, and we're not going to give you the ball that much to take advantage of that guy. So best we probably won't play you a lot tonight. Sometimes it can become frustrating for a player because all players think that they can do it all, right? And they deserve an opportunity based on maybe they're doing one thing right. Like Frank could say, look, I'm shooting the ball well, I'm doing this, and he's
playing pretty well. I was skeptical of the Kaminsky thing. You can't argue. He's playing pretty well.
He's playing well. And so Frank could say, why are you penalizing me and thinking that I can't do this because I'm doing this? I still know. Monty has gotten them to accept that this is how I'm going to coach you. I'm not going to change. I'm going to play with the rhythm of how I feel that our team is going to flow in any particular situation, and it's worked. So I think they all have bought into it. I truly do. And I think we saw a prime example the other night, Zach, when at the end of that game, most coaches – I don't care what the rhythm was, and it drives me nuts sometimes. And I was like a guy that came off the bench like the last, 7, 8 years, 9 years of my career, is that, hey, man, if we got it going, why are you substituting? Why are you putting them guys back in? We're the ones that got us back in the game. And I love that Monty left Chris Paul over there on the bench. He left Ayton on the bench because Dario Saric was destroying the Lakers. And he stayed with that rhythm. And it means a lot to players when a coach does that, man. Because now you show up to work and you're like, okay, if I give him something, he's going to reward me. That's that old school mentality that I miss from a lot of coaches in the league today.
I think that's actually one of the hardest decisions for coaches to make is when they have a bench unit that's rolling and it gets you back in a game. And then things kind of stabilize. The opponent's got their starters in the game now, so you're not going against backups. It's a really hard decision of like, all right, have these guys sort of maxed out what they can do and we got to get the big dogs back in, or do we ride with them? I think a lot of coaches err on the side of like what you just said, let's ride with the bench guys, and suddenly the momentum peters out. But sometimes it's the right answer. I can tell you what I think for Phoenix. The Kaminsky thing reminds me a little bit of Myers Leonard starting last season with the Heat, where all season I just kind of kept saying and writing, I think the real version of this team that's going to make noise has Bam at center and a small ball 4 like Jay Crowder, ironically, around him. And sure enough, that's what Spo did. When they got to the bubble, he went all in. Yeah. He basically scrapped Myers Leonard. And I just think, I know the numbers don't say it. I think the Crowder version of the starting five is the best lineup of those lineups, and I would like to see him lean back towards that. But I do think, and we've seen Steve Nash. The Phoenix connections just keep coming. We've seen Steve Nash do it in Brooklyn a little bit.
Yeah.
He's gone back and forth with starting fives based on matchup. We got a big team. DJ, you're going to start. We got a smaller team. Maybe we'll start with no big guy at all.
Right.
Nick Nurse has done that a little bit in Toronto, where he would start Ibaka or Gasol or back and forth before settling on Gasol the first year there. I think if the players are okay with it, I actually think that kind of having multiple starting fives is a smart thing. But as you said, players are creatures of habit. They like to know when I'm coming in, what my role is. So I don't know if that's too hard of a sell. But if I got to pick one, I want him to roll with the Crowder at the 4 lineup personally.
And that's great. And what I would say to players that have a hard time with it, to study the game and anticipate that's what's going to happen. I mean, if you study the game and you understand the trends of the coach, you already know, you can look down the schedule and say, okay, he's not going to start me. Okay, I might not play this amount of minutes. I mean, I did it as a player. I understood that. Dan Marley, myself, Ty Corbin, we knew when we played for the Suns in the 90s that who was going to probably play the most minutes, and it would be based on, what the team needed that particular night. And I think every player should have that mindset. But I agree with you with the Crowder situation. The one thing Crowder brings you, and you can get a little flustered at times because he's not he's got that big body and he doesn't venture into the paint much on drives. But what he does defensively, as I said, is his toughness, his physical toughness too, and the way he attacks everybody, I think is huge for this basketball team. And he takes big shots. He's not afraid to take big shots, and I love that. He's not a great 3-point shooter, but he's a very confident 3-point shooter. And that's the guy that I would ride with every time. When he goes up, he thinks he's going to make it and not wondering if he's going to make it. And so, yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's probably going to be the lineup that Monty rolls with as the season winds down and they get into the playoffs, because he knows if he can keep a game close, that Devin Booker and Chris Paul can win it for him.
I was going to say, I love Jay Crowder. I've always liked Jay Crowder. He shoots like he thinks he's Klay Thompson, which is one of the things I love about him. He's just he's letting it fly off the dribble, guys with the hands in his face. All right, go ahead, Jay Crowder. If that's what you think, go ahead. And he makes enough of them where you're all right.
But you like that though, Zach, because you want a guy that you can put the brake on instead of a guy you got to speed up. I mean, so as a coach, I mean, you want a guy like that. I mean, that was my mentality as a player, and I think when you have that mentality, then the coach will control you instead of the coach trying to put some speed juice in you to get you to go harder at it or be more aggressive. So I love that with Crowder, and that's why I was very happy the Suns picked him up.
So the Suns don't have a ton to trade unless they're willing to do something a little dramatic, which I don't sense. But they can trade a future first, a 2027 first. And, they've got some, I would suspect, given how long the drought has been, that if they sense, hey, we've got a chance to make some noise, they'll at least sniff around some stuff that they can pick up at the deadline or the buyout. But forget specifics. What kind of player, if you could invent a player, like a realistic player, not a star or something, but if you could invent a kind of player to add to this team, what do you think they need?
A physical 4 with size. Somebody that will go in there and, again, as I said, intimidate people. Good offensive rebounder. Let me throw up somebody. Somebody like a Rashawn Holmes, who they had, but I'm just saying somebody that plays like that. Doesn't care about his touches. He's just out there to just throw people around. Just use 6 fouls, the Dwight Howard mentality to protect Ayton. Because, again, he's still a young player, and we need him to be that way, but it's going to be a little work in progress. But I think they need that. In their draft this year, Jalen Smith, I think they hope that he turns into that kind of player. That's what they need. Somebody that can shoot, that can stretch it out a little bit, and not a total liability if he's out there on the court. But, Serge Ibaka, I think that might be the perfect, guy I would probably say. Somebody like that. And there's not many of them in the league, but I think that's what they're missing.
So I was interested to hear your answer because you and I know this from listening to you on the broadcast. You and I are two of the bigger Etuan Moore fans in the NBA. It's a small community of us, but we get a lot of enjoyment out of Etuan Moore coming off a screen on the left side and launching a floater. And I bring him up because the answer to my question is either the answer you just gave or those third guard minutes, the campaign, Etuan Moore, Langston Galloway, Javon Carter, they make me a little nervous sometimes. And Monty has just gone back and forth on which of those guys he trusts and which of those guys he doesn't trust. If they could find a way to but you don't know who the upgraded. Like, was Wayne Ellington going to come in and change your life? Or I don't know. But those minutes make me a little bit nervous. You're on team Etuan Moore with me.
Right. Yeah. And I think Monty has been searching, obviously. Right. Because they all give a little something. They do. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I love Etuan Moore. I do. He's a pro's pro. And just the little things that he's done. I think he's a winning player. I think you can put him in there at the end of the game. I think he's not afraid to take a big shot. He can create for himself. He can get in the paint and find a teammate. You can throw Langston Galloway out there, and if he's hot, I don't know too many players that can shoot threes as quickly as he can. He is a point-a-minute guy. So he's got a lot of ammunition. He's got campaign, as you said. He can throw him in there. And defensively, he'll pick you up 94 feet. And he's unafraid to shoot. So, he's you're right. I mean, if he wanted to look for somebody else and maybe combine two of those guys, I think all those guys could help a playoff team in regards to a trade. But, and look, James Jones is always looking. The one thing about James Jones, he's done a tremendous job. And he and I have had a number of conversations. And the one thing that's jumped out, because he and I think the same way, mature players win for you. He was a role guy at the end of the bench. He understood that. And the maturity aspect of how he's drafted, how he trades, has led to this turnaround for the Phoenix Suns. And any GM out there that thinks that young players are going to win for them, good luck in your job. It's not going to last long. Masai Ujiri brought that to the league in a big way, and how he drafted in Toronto and how he has traded for players, and they won a championship. Well, you can say, they got Kawhi. Trust me, they were winning 50-something games before Kawhi get there. You and I know that.
And after too.
Exactly. So that's the mentality James has, and I'm sure the Suns are continually looking.
A couple other Suns notes. When I ask people around the league this question I opened with, why are we not talking more seriously about the Suns? One of the answers that comes up is, well, do we trust Chris Paul to keep this up throughout the season? And I think he's slowed down a little bit lately. He's had a few games where he had one basket in games. So that's a reason for skepticism. But on the flip side, they're 12-5 against 500 or above teams. They've beaten a lot of good teams. That's one of the best. I think the best record in the NBA against over 500 is like 13-4. So they're really good. And the last thing before I ask you about some childhood stuff for me, I wonder, Monty's dabbled a little bit, just a little bit here and there, in playing Saric and Ayton together. And I wonder what you think of that as a potential solution to your, you brought up the need for a physical four. Like, could Dario be that guy alongside DeAndre for 3, 4, 5 minutes a game? Is that a look that you think Monty will use? Do you like it?
Yeah, I think he'll use it because Dario, they can both get out of each other's way. And you don't normally have that comfortability with two big guys out there. Dario can shoot the three, and DeAndre can shoot at least a 15 to 20 foot, if he's at the elbows or whatever. And so I think he likes that aspect of it sometimes, tell you the truth. He'd love to keep venturing out there from three, and he has the green light if he's wide open out there with a good rhythm, that he can take the three. So I like that. I do. Because I think if you lift DeAndre and you start to post Dario, he's a very good passer. And I think that allows, who's going to go? Who's going to go double him? And probably a big guy is going to probably go. And that leaves DeAndre an opportunity to get on the weak side glass. So it's a lot of good intangibles there when they do play together. when Frank Kaminsky plays with him, obviously Frank more so wants to be outside, and then DeAndre Ayton can be in the interior. So he has good combinations with both of those guys, but I suspect that Dario and Ayton will get some minutes together.
I think they've played 28 minutes only for the season, but a few of those, a good bundle of them have come lately. It's a look I like. All right, I cannot have you on this podcast without asking you about a defining 2 months of NBA history for any fan who's within 5 years either direction of my age. I'm 43 years old. The 1993 playoffs, it might be the greatest playoffs in the history of the NBA from top to bottom. You were on the 1993 Sonics. I don't even know how the hell you got through these 19 playoff games. Your playoff run that year, 5 games against Utah in the first round. 5 games was the distance against Stockton and Malone. 7 games against the Rockets in the second round in a game 7 that came down to the absolute end. And 7 games against the Charles Barkley Phoenix Suns in the conference finals. So you went the distance in every series.
Yes.
You came within a hair of going to the finals and facing Jordan and the Bulls. So you've got young Gary Payton, young Sean Kemp. Like every series you played, particularly that Houston series, was absolutely epic. What are some of your favorite memories or behind-the-scenes stories from that playoff run?
You know, I mean, Zach, I lost so much early in my career playing in Kansas City, Sacramento. Then when I got to Phoenix, we had won 28 games the first year. And, obviously had the drug scandal, had to get through that. And then when they made that deal for KJ and Mark West and Ty Corbin, and then signed Tom Chambers, drafted Dan Marley, Tim Perry, Andrew Lane, all of a sudden I started to get a taste of winning. And that was a very talented team. At that time, the most talented team I had been on in regards to winning. And then when they traded me to Seattle for Xavier McDaniel, worst trade the Suns ever made, by the way. Even though I love Xavier McDaniel, he and I used to fight and battle all the time.
He was when he was on the Knicks. I mean, they just turned him into like a brawler, man. Whew.
Yeah, but I love competing against him. Every time I see him, I give him a hug because he brought the best out of me. But when they made that deal, the Suns went a different direction, obviously, and it didn't work because they traded Xavier, I think, the next year. That's when they traded him to New York. But when I went to the Seattle team, just give you the history on that team initially. When I went there, Casey Jones was the coach. And I got traded in my uniform with, obviously one of my father figures, Cotton Fitzsimmons. I love him to death. I miss him dearly. And so it was the hardest thing he ever had to do. He and I both cried. He felt like he had to do the deal and fine. He and I weren't getting along too much. I've been with him so many years and he just was on me. And I kind of started to rebel and fight back a little bit. But when he traded me there, and I was disappointed. But when I got on the plane and I told my wife, I'm like, honey, I'm looking at the Sonic team. This team's talented. Now, at that point in time, it's like they had lost about 13 out of the last 15 games. And so I had to meet them in Milwaukee. I could have taken a few days, but I said, no, I'm going to go right now because I just think I need to get to that team as quickly as I can. And I met them in Milwaukee. I walk in the hotel. And Sedell 3, who one of the hardest working dudes you ever want to play with. Great teammate. And he's the first guy I run into because they had just flown in ahead of me. And he looks at me and he says, "Welcome to the Twilight Zone." Hold it. I looked at him. I was like, okay. And immediately I went up to my room and just bawled, cried. Because I was like, here I am again, back in this mentality that I got out of, with the struggles early in my career. And I just said to myself, I went to Casey Jones' room to talk to him. And I love Casey Jones. And Casey Jones, just wasn't the right coach for this group that we had. But great dude, man. And he passed on, too, a few months ago, I think. And we're going to miss him dearly. But man, he looked at me and said, "Hey, what do you like to do?" Like, what? What? And he laughed. because he knew, but it's like it added to my tears, man. I was about ready to cry again. And I left out of there, man, and we went through our first practices and everything, and we started practicing, and I noticed right away we had issues. Nate McMillan and I were, good leaders on that team. We had Michael Cage. We had some very good veterans on that team. And Gary Payton
You're making the yapping noise with your hands, that's what Gary Payton is yapping somewhere right now, probably.
Just talking.
And I say that lovingly. We all love the glove, but that's what he does.
Love him. That's like my little brother. Love him. But I said, hold up. Something's wrong with this pitcher. He talking during practice. He giving instruction. So one day I bit the bullet. I told Nate, I said, Nate, if he starts talking today, I'm going to go at him. And I said, I need you to back me up. I'm not worried about Gary fighting me, but I just need you to back me up. And he started yapping. I went at him. And he looked at me. I said, why don't you shut up and listen to coaches? And he stopped and he looked, and Gary had these two big childhood buddies that like his bodyguards. They like huge dudes, right? So I'm like, I'm not gonna fight the dude. But he stiffened up a little bit and he looked at me and he didn't say nothing. And after practice, I went up to him and I said, look, I needed to do that to you because you talk too much right now, man. I mean, are you going to be talented? Without a doubt. Are you going to be a tremendous player? Without a doubt. But you need to shut up, man, and just listen. And he did. And he and Sean had a tough time being in practice on time and all of that. And, we worked through all of those issues and all of that. And, man, I'm telling you, Zach, the most talented team I've ever played.
I don't doubt it.
It's the most talented. I mean, you think about it. Gary, Sean, Sam Perkins, Derek McKee, Ricky Pierce, myself, Dana Barrows, Michael Cage. I mean, it's the most talented, deepest team I've ever been on. And when they hired George Karl and brought him in, George was the perfect coach for us. George was like one of us, man. We can talk jump to him. We can, he'd get out there on the court and, knock us around. I mean, we had a ball. And George lifted us to a level of confidence. And when we went into that playoffs in '93, we knew we were the better team. Even though with the Suns having Charles, we felt we were the better team. And we won the second game there. And the third game is what killed us. I was dealing with a leg injury, man. I'm trying to do it with smoke and mirrors, and I just sucked. I did. It kills me to this day that I had gotten injured at that point in time. I had gotten injured in the Houston series. And, George made me mask it. He wouldn't tell nobody. And I'm playing literally on one leg. But again, back in the day, you just have to play through it. And, man, I'm telling you, man, when we lost that third game, I knew we were in trouble. And the way Charles was playing was ridiculous. But, man, it was a great series, man. When we went to Game 7, man, I mean, they jumped out on us. And that was the first freaking game in that series where I actually felt good. And I had a good game, but it just was one game too late for me. But, man, no, I talk to them guys all the time, man. It's one of the best teams I think this league has seen that did not, live up to expectations that particular year. They got to the finals, obviously, a couple of years later, but that was one of the best teams and best series I played in.
Yeah, that whole playoffs of '93, if you sat and ranked just the best top to bottom, round to round playoff seasons, that '93 would be close to the top. All right, Eddie, you got to go. Thanks for giving us some time on the Suns. I mean it. Everyone should check out the local Phoenix broadcast. Kevin and Eddie do a great job, and it's great to have you on. NBA legend Eddie Johnson, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Zach. I appreciate it. They can listen to me 1 to 4 too on SiriusXM NBA Radio.
There you go. I can't keep track of it. You got a lot of platforms. I can't keep track of all of them.
You know what, Zach? Since I've been 14 years old, man, I've worked every day of my life. And so that's how I'm going to go out of here, working.
There you go. Thank you, Eddie. Be well. Be safe.
Thanks, Zach.
You know about First Take, but what about First Take? Her Take, a new podcast hosted by Charlie Arnault, Kimberly Martin, and Shanae Agwumake. They discuss and debate the biggest sports stories and delve into topics about their lives and culture. You can find First Take, Her Take, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's bring in the current frontrunner for Sixth Man of the Year. Combo guard off the bench for the red hot, scorching, dominating the entire NBA landscape Utah Jazz, Mr. Jordan Clarkson. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Appreciate you having me.
I'm hanging in. I'm hanging in, my friend. So I'm going to start with the mea culpa right off the bat. When the Jazz traded for you, I said, and I wrote, I'm not sure this is going to work. They got a lot. They got a lot of ball handlers on that team. Joe Ingles, Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, on and on. I'm not sure I trust his defense. Not sure I trust his shooting, even though he's shooting more threes in Cleveland. You were starting to do those relocation threes where you would be like Steph and get to the corners. I'm just not sure I trust it. I'm just not sure. Frankly, what I was really implying was not sure this is a guy I trust on the biggest stage in the NBA. I have already said on my own podcast and in writing, I was dead wrong. You have proven me wrong, but I wanted to say it right to your face. I was dead wrong. I'm sorry. You have proven me wrong. But you probably heard similar stuff from other people, right? You've heard that about your game, I assume.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely. It's kind of been a big thing for my growth as a player and stuff like that. Biggest thing was for me just kind of taking all that information and applying it to what I do. So it wasn't the first time I've heard that. Wasn't the last time I felt like I was going to hear that. So it just kind of entailed to all my progress and what I was working on in that summertime, trying to progress my game and have an impact on it when I got here.
You could see it starting in Cleveland. Your shot selection, and I know the Jazz noticed it because I've talked to them about it. Your shot selection started being a little fewer long twos, more threes, more shots at the rim. I'm guessing that was intentional. It was something you worked towards. But how did that process start? Like, why did that start happening in Cleveland?
I mean, after Braun had left, we weren't really winning much games, and weren't really competing for a championship or anything at that time. So I kind of just the guy on the staff, Steve Frankowski, we kind of sat down and kind of went over like basically my shot distributions and stuff like that, where I was getting shots, and he basically told me why you shooting these when you could take two steps back and shoot a three, and why you shooting those when you could get all the way to the rim and finish at the basket. Just simple stuff like that, and he kind of just broke it down to me, um, all the way to the T, and I just started working on it, adding it in while we was playing those games in Cleveland. And then when I got to the Jazz, Quinn came up to me and said the same thing. They were telling me the same thing in Utah, so kind of just translated over, and I just took it from there. And he gave me the freedom to kind of go out and do that. And then we got a bunch of talented guys, and shots were very open, and uh, a lot of stuff was easier for me. So it just made the transition from shooting those long mid-range twos and stuff like that much easier for me.
We're coming up, somehow, we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of when the NBA shut down. And it happened at a Jazz Thunder game in Oklahoma City right before tip off. I wonder a year out, sort of what images, what flashbulb memories you have of that night, what you're always going to remember 60, 70 years from now, what you'll tell your grandkids. Like, what do you take from, what do you remember of just it must have just been complete chaos, confusion, but what are some of the things you remember? Conversations, moments, whatever.
Uh, Man, to be honest with you, I just remember calling my family. I was kind of shook that night. That was the craziest thing. I just remember walking off the floor, and then the testers and everybody coming in looking like we was like Monsters Inc. characters with the whole suits on and stuff like that. So that's what I could remember. I remember, we weren't able to get in the hotel, so we was outside for a while. I remember staying up that whole night, basically a whole almost 24, 48 hours, because we left in that morning, came back to Utah, and I had to inform my family of all the stuff that was going on, and everybody was panicking. So that day, that night was just crazy. It was a crazy experience that I'll never forget either.
From what I remember, Chris Paul like brought you guys wine and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, he did for sure. Yeah, he dropped it. guess he had somebody drop it off at the arena. It was about I think it was a bunch of bottles, 10, 12 bottles, really good ones. Uh, Definitely trusted in him on picking the wine selection, but we finished those before the night was over.
Red, white, what's your preference?
I'm red.
Red.
I love a good cab, some Pinot as well.
So after that happens, the NBA goes on hiatus for a long time. Obviously, Rudy and Donovan both contract the virus. And then there's some media coverage about, well, this is going to be the end of Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. The resentment, the hostility, this is not salvageable going forward. Obviously, I never wrote that or said that. I never actually believed that. But that has been proven completely wrong. I mean, it not only was it salvageable, you guys have the best record in the NBA, but internally, I don't know who you're close with on the team, who you were talking to, but were you ever worried like this could break us as a team, or are you pretty confident in the fabric of the team?
Uh, I was pretty confident in the fabric of the team. You know, we had uh, seconds where we kind of like disappeared a little bit from each other, but we all kind of had to sit down and really look at things and um, just take it all in one. And uh, when we got to the bubble, it just was like it was we were all inseparable. The bond just grew way more. Rudy, Donovan, all of us, especially me, because to be honest with you, I was only there for maybe 2 months. And I didn't really spend much time with anybody. Didn't know anybody's name for real, training staff, any of that. So I was kind of getting to know everybody. Um, and then when I got to the bubble, just having that time, we didn't have no, there was nothing else to do, bro. All we could do is talk to each other and hang out with each other when we can. And then getting to know everybody, that was just a big thing for us. It made our group really, really tight knit and together.
What did you guys? I remember early on there was like. Now I'm remembering there was some photo or video of like a ping pong tournament or something. Like, what was the
Yeah.
Jazz go-to activity? Were you pool guys? Were you after game wine guys? Ping pong, everything. Like, what was your go-to?
Me and Joe were big after the game, wine guys. Uh, but the biggest thing we came back to was ping pong. We had a little bracket. Everybody was racking up their wins and stuff like that. Played a lot with Rudy. He's probably one of our better players at ping pong.
Yeah, I'm not
Donovan's
sure
pretty
if his
good as
if his
well.
height if Rudy's height is an advantage or is it reach. He can get everywhere, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, he covers the table. Uh, but that was our main thing. I think we did a lot of ping pong. We had that in our meal room. So before film, before we ate, before anything, we were in there playing. We'll show up 30 minutes, 45 minutes before a meeting, and we're all down there just playing, having fun. So that was a big thing that brought us together.
Coach Snyder get involved at all, or is he just like the players have the
No,
ping
no,
pong
no,
table?
no, no. Quinn didn't play. He probably snuck some games in with the coaching staff, but we never saw him get on the table.
Okay, so one of the most iconic, for better or worse, moments in recent NBA history. I want you to tell me what you remember of this. It's going to be a little painful, but it's going to be all right.
All
Is
right.
J.R. Smith forgetting the score of the game in game one of the NBA Finals, 2018? Then there's the overtime, and in between there's that TV timeout where they have showed the famous video of LeBron just sitting there talking to nobody. So you were not. I rewatched the clip. You were not in the game when that happened. But what
Right.
do you remember? I was trying to see like where are you watching it unfold and all that. But what do you remember of that?
Um, sh- I remember him. I remember the free throws, and I think Kevin or Kevin might have got subbed out of the game before the first one or something. And I remember him coming to the bench, and I gave him a hug. We were like screaming, like, yeah, we about like really excited that we was gonna win this first game. Um, so Georges knocks the first one in, uh, and then he missed the second one. And I see, JR gets the rebound and starts dribbling out. We start dribbling out. Of course, I'm thinking we up too. Like everybody on the bench, when he gets the rebound and starts dribbling out, we thinking, oh, this is a great play. He's up. But as that's happening, we look up and we were just like everybody was just in total shock. That's probably one of the craziest moments I've been a part of in the league ever. But um, it was that's it. That's all I could say. It just was crazy. Because we thought we had that game won. Uh, and man, it was just a lot. We had another timeout. It was just a lot of stuff that went on that shouldn't have went on, but hey, it happens. It's part of the game sometimes. But man, that's a tough one to swallow, though.
So you're saying you're saying the way he started dribbling out, you yourself for a second thought like we
Yeah,
might be ahead.
yeah. For a second, I was like, because I mean, George at the time too was a 90% free throw shooter.
Yeah.
We ain't used to George missing free throws, so we like, oh, we got this in the bag after he makes the first one. So as JR's dribbling out, I'm like, oh, we up then. And then as I'm looking up again, I'm like, oh wow, no, this cannot be happening. It was so quick. It was a crazy moment. Man, in my career, I don't even want to try to remember that. Then seeing it everywhere on the internet the next day and keep seeing it, it was crazy. Just something that you gotta kind of let pass.
So one of the biggest secrets that's ever been kept during the NBA Finals was that after that game, LeBron punched the whiteboard and broke a bone in his hand, and none of us knew. Like, it started to trickle out before the last game of the series.
Yeah.
Like, and someone asked me, like, "Hey, have you heard this rumor that LeBron hurt his hand?" I'm like, "No, I haven't
Yeah.
heard that." And then after he shows up with the brace or whatever. So you guys,
Yeah.
did you all know right away and just keep it secret? Like, did he hit it? Did you see him hit it? Was it just a full on like right-handed like bam punch right on the board?
Yeah, it was pretty intense. Uh, I felt bad for the whiteboard. But but yeah, he toughed it out and gave us amazing performances after that. It was just insane. Just shows how great of a player he is and how he impacts the game. Um, but yeah, I remember even after the game, we kind of pushed media back too. We all was just kind of sitting in the locker room. It was dead silence after that loss. That one hurt a lot.
So you might win Sixth Man of the Year. Julius Randle just made his first All-Star team. D'Angelo Russell has made an All-Star team. Brandon Ingram has made an All-Star team. Larry Nance is a beloved member of the Cavs that was having the best all-around season of his career. Do you ever think back of like, we actually kind of had something going with the Lakers? Like, obviously it's worked out fantastically for the Lakers, clearly, but like that, like all of us, for 2 years it was like with the Lakers young core, how is it going to work out? But and like then they changed directions and you guys kind of scatter around the league. But hey, like, look, you guys all got pretty damn good yourselves.
hmm Yeah. I mean, you can't look back at them and be like, man, we could have had a great team or whatever, but I feel like it all fell in place how it was supposed to. We all got an opportunity to grow in our own molds and really continue to, progress our games and be who we are now. So definitely was a blessing that the Lakers took a chance on, all of us drafting us, putting their trust in us. Um, and it's crazy when you look at that and like, man, they got these really good players, these young guys that they trusted in, and we all kept foot on the gas after we got traded. Didn't let that really bog us down or anything, and kept going.
Was it weird to watch them win it all last year?
No, not necessarily. Just because I play with Braun as well, and just seeing them do great things is really nice too.
So when the Lakers made that trade, they traded you and Larry to Cleveland for Isaiah Thomas, and I don't remember all the other particulars. I think a pick was involved too. One of the immediate reactions in the media was, "Oh, that's interesting. The Cavs just helped the Lakers open up cap space to sign LeBron James away from the Cavs." And so, lo and behold, that happens. You and Larry don't get to go back to LA with LeBron James. You stay in Cleveland. Was that something that you guys talked about when it happened? Like, this could be a strange situation where, yeah, this trade is going to help us make the finals, but it also might help the best guy go out the door.
Yeah. I think me and Larry kind of said that to each other at one point in the year. We're just like, yo, he really might go to LA after this. So let's enjoy this time with him. But yeah, it was crazy. We just wanted to enjoy the experience, uh, playing with that team, knowing that we was gonna do something special, getting to compete in the playoffs. That was the first playoff series and or anything that I've ever been to, and just playing with him that heightens everything. And it was a great experience for me. Wasn't great performances, but it's just something that I had to take under the chin and get better. And whenever I made another playoff appearance, I was gonna be ready for it.
I heard a funny story about you about when you got to Utah. A couple of your teammates, Joe Ingles and George Yang, told me Jordan came up to at least Joe, maybe other people, and said one of the first things you said to Joe, first shoot around. You can tell me if this is true or false. Was, "Hey Joe, if you ever have the ball at the end of the shot clock, I know some guys don't like to shoot in that situation. Like it's going to lower your field goal percentage. Like they call it like the flaming bag that someone passes to you.
Yeah.
You can just pass it right over to me. I'll happily take a shot and get us a bucket. Is that true?"
Yeah, that's very true. That was the first thing I said to him. Cause it wasn't even actually shoot around. It was cause the day I got traded, I think it was like Christmas or something. They was in Miami, and I spent Christmas at home, and I flew in. The day of the game, we played Portland, and I kind of just walked in the locker room. No shoot around or anything. I just told Joe, just like, exactly what you said. Yo, bro, if because I knew he was in the unit with me, and he was gonna be playing. So I was like, bro, if you ever get it late shot clock and you don't have nothing, just throw me the ball. I'll make sure we score, or I will get a shot on the rim and make a play or something. Just make sure you get it to me. Anything under 5 seconds, anywhere. Just feel comfortable throwing the ball to me.
Most people don't want that. Most people don't want the ball with two on the shot clock. They're going to have to heave up a shot. So does this at the end of quarters? Now I'm going to have to go back and do my research. If you get the ball at the end of a quarter, will you heave it up, or are you going to do the thing where you wait for the buzzer to sound and then heave it up?
No, I try to still get a shot at
Good man. That's so then you get to the bubble, and you have this incredible series against Denver, and that last 15 seconds, the ball getting poked away from Donovan, Denver somehow bizarrely trying to score instead of run out the clock, and Mike rattling that shot in and out. I fell off my couch at home screaming, and I don't even care who won the game. And my wife was like, "What just happened? What are you screaming?" So I was trying to find you again. Like, where's Jordan? Like Joe bends over. Someone on your bench falls over. What do you remember? Like, what do you remember of watching that? You must have been like, "Wait, what's happening? What shot might go in?" Like, what do you remember of watching that?
I just remember Denver was trying to score, like you said, and I was like, "Well, we got time to score. Like, we get this, we got a chance still." I thought Mike, I thought Mike's shot went in actually, and because I was like, I think I was kind of towards like the corner of the backboard end where you kind of like walk towards back to the locker room. So all I could see is like the ball coming out. Like, so I thought it went in and like rolled out and like just came out the basket. And I looked at everybody else. Everybody was on the ground, and I just was like, "Oh, damn, we just lost the game." But I literally thought he made the shot, and we were in the next round, and we was about to go. But um, yeah, that was a tough one. We had a chance to win. Feel like we in uh, all of our games, and we have chances to win. So that was a tough one to swallow again. But man, that was a crazy experience. Another time where I thought we was winning.
So what's the locker room like after a moment like that? Who talks? Does Quinn talk? Does anybody talk? Do you guys just get dressed and go have a drink? I mean, what do you do to digest a loss like that?
At first it's very silent. Like it's no talking. Guys is in their emotions. Some guys get super angry. Some guys is like super sad. Hiding their tears in their hands and stuff like that. Uh, you kind of just gotta give everybody their space literally after the game, I don't think we text or you know talk to each other for maybe like an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, and then after we was like, yo, we got to get together. We all just went down to the restaurant and kind of let it all out, had a few drinks and talked, and kind of got over that loss in that series. I mean, that's all we could do is that and try to pull it together because we knew the season was about to come back again soon, and we had to get ready for that.
Tell me about Frank Sinatra pregame music.
Oh man, so that all started with Kevin, me and K Love. Um, we always play That's Life, before the games, and after me and him used to go to this pizza spot in Cleveland sometimes after the games, and uh, Il Roni pizza, really good. Um, we kind of just used to chill, drink wine, and hang out. We used to have him play Frank and all that during that. So, I mean, it was just something that kind of got me locked in. And then that's when the Joker movie came out, and I was like, oh, this is crazy. And then, it's just, and then I just kind of grew a love for Frank Sinatra, and, I listened to a lot of his music.
It's a pregame routine for you. It's part of the pregame routine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I haven't
That's one of
seen
my
the joke.
pregame
I haven't
routines.
seen the Joker movie. Do I need to see the Joker movie?
Oh yeah, that's a good movie.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so you guys are number one in the West. I think everyone has elevated your team into the championship conversation, deservedly so. I think there will always be some skepticism of like when you get the Lakers or the Clippers. Well, who's guarding Kawhi and PG? Obviously, you have Royce is your sort of go-to stopper. Rudy will probably guard AD if and when you play the Lakers. But do you feel like we fit right into that conversation? We're not worried about those matchups. Like you can flip it around and say, well, who's guarding the way we're shooting threes and the way our blender runs, and like you feel like you're right in that conversation now.
Yeah, I think we are in that conversation of being contenders. Um, and the biggest thing for us is that we really aren't worried about that stuff, guarding other teams and doing that. I think we're more locked in and um, envisioning ourselves and our system, um, and doing what we do defensively as well, to help beat those teams. We really rely on each other. Um, the all the guys in the rotation to do things. It starts from the top all the way to the bottom, and you can see that defensively and offensively. Without each other, I think we really don't have much. So with us thinking that way, us being all on the same page, I think it helps us a lot.
Yeah, you're second in defense overall behind the Lakers, and it really does shine through. Like you guys are on a string. One guy slides to help, everyone else slides right with him. It's been interesting to watch. I read something I didn't know about you, which is that at some point in your NBA career, I think you worked with Steve Nash privately.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about that. Like, what did he help you with? How did that happen?
Um, I mean, Steve, he was my teammate first.
Oh my
It was
God,
my
that's
rookie
right.
year. Yeah. And then he had end up getting hurt that year and end up retiring. So um, yeah, that's how it started. I really was working with him and stuff in the mornings. Of course with Kobe and stuff as well. But me and Steve were going in late night, like 9:30 at night, getting work in. All of it was like balance, trying to get me to slow down. Uh, Being able to make reads and stuff like that. But the main thing was really balance on my shot, staying low, staying ready. He kind of broke everything down to the T, and it's definitely helped me grow as a player and who I am today. I still do some of that stuff. I think you see when KD was he does a lot of that stuff in his warm up too, like the one-legged stuff when he's
hmm
spinning around and doing all that. That's a lot of Steve's work that he's kind of implemented over there as well too.
Are you surprised he's the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie? Like, how wild is the NBA? Steve Nash is the coach of the Brooklyn Nets with those three guys. Are you surprised that that's his job now?
Uh, I'm not surprised, but that is pretty crazy though. But that's a great person to do it. It's a tough job for him probably, but I know he's loving it. He loves to teach. He loves to do all that stuff, and he's a great leader. So I hope the best for him.
A few more quick ones, and I'll let you go. How much did Byron Scott make you guys run when he was the
Oh,
Lakers? He's old school, right?
yo, yeah, that's probably why Steve retired after that. But yeah, B Scott, man, he used to put it on us, man. But uh, he's done he did a tremendous job coaching us as a young guys as well. You know, putting that structure on us, um, making us get up in the mornings and telling us to get in the gym. Hey, you need to be around these vets. You need to listen to them. You need to do all this and like you said, he's an old school coach. Um, so yeah, we did a lot of running though. I can't tell you though. What was surprising to me is that Kobe in training camp and stuff, he was doing all that. He was doing the easy runs, 25 minutes with your hands up. He was doing everything, and I was kind of surprised because we would rarely see him at practice, anyways. When we started practicing and stuff like that, because he was recovering, from his workouts and stuff like that in the mornings. But he was there during training camp, going hard.
Obviously, you were there for the. I don't like to rope people into Kobe conversations, but someone from
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Lakers
for
told
sure.
me ask Jordan about the 60-point game because he was there
Yeah.
for it, and I know that it meant a lot to him. I know he was hugging people in the tunnel, just like couldn't believe he witnessed this. So to tell me sort of what you remember, let's focus on the happy. Like that game is an all-time moment. What do you remember from that?
That I'll never forget that game. That was just amazing. I remember just um, sitting on the bench, and he was like, I think he was like maybe 1 for 7, or he might have been 0 for 7 or something in the beginning. And then he had a mid-range pull-up going middle, and I was like, oh, it's over. He just needed to see one fall, and after that, another three. He banged a three, and another post up, score. I think he ran off just so many points in like a little bunch in that first. And I was just like, all right, this is gonna be crazy, something to watch. And I don't know. Everybody kind of was on there like, man, we got to see what he's gonna do. And then without it being said, we came in the locker room like, yo, we got to get this man the ball no matter what. Nobody shoot nothing. I think every point I scored was like a layup or a dunk. If that was on a rebound or a steal, leak
Like
out
you
or
like you
something.
have to shoot.
Yeah, like I had to shoot it. Man, that was the only way. But yeah, that game was just amazing. The atmosphere was crazy. Kanye was in the back after. I remember we was popping champagne bottles. We just had a great time after that. Felt like we won a championship when that happened, but it definitely go down as one of the best memories I had as a Laker and being a pro.
I have to ask you about this. You're not going to want to talk about it, but it would be dereliction of duty to my listeners if I did not ask about it. So I'm
Okay.
sorry in advance. Blame the listeners. Were you there when J.R. Smith threw soup at Damon Jones?
I didn't witness it.
Okay.
I did not witness it, but I was there. Like we had a meeting after that, and Jr. just walked into the meeting like nothing else happened, and I remember I remember coming to the game, and because Jr. is like really me and Jr. are real close. I just remember coming into the game, asking where he was at, and it was like, oh, you didn't hear about this morning? I was like, no, we had film right after. I don't know what's going on. And it was like, and then I looked on my phone and it was like, he threw soup at Damon Jones.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's not. It's not. I mean, it is kind of funny, but it's also if I were Damon Jones, it wouldn't be that funny. Although
Yeah.
he's now subsequently talked about it. All right, you've got to go. We've given you half an hour. Just give me one thing you want to focus on second half of the season in your game. It could be a little thing, could be a little thing on defense, it could be something I don't know what. Just give me one thing you got in your mind of like I want to get this locked in before the playoffs.
Uh, Shifting on defense and closing out to, shooters, keeping them out the paint. That's the biggest thing for me. And just other than that, just continue to what I'm doing. Shoot threes, try to get to the rim. Um, and that's really it. I know a lot of people like be saying, "Oh, the mid range and stuff like that." I still, would get there and shoot them when they're open at the right times and do that. But keep continuing to, take the shots that are available and you know, just doing what I'm doing now.
Listen, man, it's been really fun to watch. You're one hell of a shot maker, and you get where you want to go. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know how you do it, but in one of my columns, I said he reminds me of like a skinny Boris Diaw. Like Boris would get the ball at the top of the arc and just kind of like dribble, half spin dribble. All of a sudden, he's at the rim. You have a little. So it's been fun to watch. You proved a lot of us wrong, including me, and so congrats on your success. Keep it up, and thank you for making a little time. Jordan Clarkson, everyone.
My God, appreciate you, Zach.